Jamaica has now recorded 15,153 cumulative cases of confirmed coronavirus infection. 339 persons have died as a result of developing COVID-19, and I offer my sincere condolences to all who have lost loved ones and who have suffered. Madam Speaker, we all in this House can point to persons who we know personally who have succumbed to the illness. The number of active cases now stands at 2,725. We have 11,911 persons who have recovered, which gives us a recovery rate of 78.6%. As of yesterday, we had 99 persons hospitalized, with 23 being moderately ill and 11 critically ill. We now have 11 persons quarantined in a government facility and 21,488 persons quarantined at home. I want to just pause here because I know that not everyone who has been issued a quarantine order is staying home.
Definitely not.
And we get many requests. Minister of Health can tell you, why don't we reduce the number of days in quarantine? Why not go to 7 or 10, or why not do a test and then release? The standard public health science on this matter is to wait out the 14 days incubation period. And we have followed that standard. I am not here by saying that if new evidence is presented, if new science is presented, that we won't revise. But at this point in time, the advice from the Chief Medical Officer is that the 14 days quarantine is best. And indeed, what we are seeing is that a number of countries are still maintaining the 14 days quarantine. Some have varied, but they have done that factoring in that they will have increases in their numbers. We have decided to take the tried, tested and proven quarantine method, and we believe that that is in the best interest of the Jamaican population. But it would only work effectively to the fullest if those persons who have been issued quarantine orders respect the orders and stay home. So I'm using this platform, Madam Speaker, colleagues, to appeal to our Jamaicans who have traveled and persons who are traveling to Jamaica to respect the quarantine orders and stay home. Once you have made the decision to travel, you should also incorporate the time that you will have to stay in quarantine and make plans to be able to have your comfort while you're in quarantine. And given the fact that work from home and virtual meetings are now not just a thing of future thought, but this is real now. You know, Madam Speaker, I have now adopted the virtual working habit. The Cabinet is working virtually. I won't say to you that we spend less time in meetings, but we get the work done. And I think it is very efficient and it saves the country. So persons who travel and have business to conduct can still be effective in that way by utilizing virtual meetings and so forth. Obviously, those people who have to conduct business physically, they will suffer some loss, but that is a part of the national response. So we ask everyone to respect the quarantine orders. The security forces have been prosecuting persons. Persons have been brought before the courts, and they will continue to do their prosecution of persons who violate the quarantine orders. Now, information provided by the ministry, also that is the Ministry of Health and Wellness, also clearly indicates that we are seeing a gradual increase in the epidemiological curve. Our positivity rate so far this week is 14.1%, and that is up from 10.8% last week and 9.5% the week before. The final week of 2020, our positivity rate was 7.7%. Madam Speaker, as you will recall from previous presentations by the Minister of Health and Wellness, there was always an expectation, indeed a prediction, that we would see upturn in cases in January after the Christmas and New Year's holidays. So, as we had projected, the epi curve is rising. Now, not only are we seeing an uptick in the positivity rate, there are also increases in the number of confirmed cases and hospitalizations across the island. Some 1,216 persons who contracted COVID-19 in Jamaica did so in the last 2 weeks. So, not just an increase from the holiday periods, but we are also seeing just an increase in this immediate past 2 weeks as well. The island-wide hospital census shows significant occupancy levels across the health regions, with two regions, the Southern Regional Health Authority and the Western Regional Health Authority, both at 86%. Additionally, there are 7 hospitals across the island that are between 87% and 100% occupancy. While overall occupancy for some hospitals would be below 100%, in some instances, wards at those facilities are full or at near capacity. So, Madam Speaker, the increase in numbers of infections, the increase in numbers of those who have contracted the COVID-19 disease is now having a creeping impact on our capacity to serve those who are affected. So we still must maintain vigilance. Madam Speaker, yesterday the government announced enhanced measures for the parish of Manchester for a period of 2 weeks ending Monday, February 28, 2021. The parish has seen a rapid increase in cases, with 125 new cases between January 10 and 24, with cases spread across the parish in over 30 communities. The test positivity rate in the parish is 27.8%, which is almost 3 times the national positivity rate. The following measures have therefore been implemented in the entire parish of Manchester. A tighter curfew commencing at 7 p.m. nightly and ending at 5 a.m. the following morning, ending at 5 a.m. on February 8, 2021. The general gathering limit for public places is being reduced from 15 to 10 persons. During the period January 25, 2021 to February 7, 2021, markets will be open and vending in public arcades and public transportation centres will take place only during 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Mondays to Saturdays. On Sundays, markets are to remain closed and no vending is to take place in public arcades and public transportation centres. Public transport will be allowed to operate only from 4 a.m. until 8 p.m., but no passengers are allowed between 4 and 5 a.m. and 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. Parks, gyms and bars must close no later than 6 p.m. each day. Madam Speaker, the government recognizes that the implementation of these measures will cause some discomfort for the people of Manchester. However, it is important that we do what is necessary to keep our people safe. What we can say about this, Madam Speaker, is that when we have put in place special measures, they have worked. They have brought down the numbers. And they also help to increase awareness, because it is in the increase in awareness that we will see an increase in compliance. So we have seen that where the measures have been implemented, persons have become more aware, they have become more cautious and responsible, and that would account for, in addition to the measures themselves, which limit movement and gathering, would account for the reduction in the numbers. So, Madam Speaker, for those who are skeptical of measures, and for those who are anti-government intervention, you know, it's amazing to scan global media and even locally to see people saying, you know, wearing masks is bad for your health, and it is not normal for people to stay apart, and you see all kinds of perspectives that don't accord with science or common sense being pervaded. As I said, all kinds of ideas which don't accord with science or common sense. So, Madam Speaker, these measures are an example of how they work to protect the society. And they have protected the people of Westmoreland, they have protected the people of St. Thomas, when we have had to do it, the people of St. Mary, and indeed the people of Clarendon, and indeed the people of St. Catherine, when we have put in place these special measures. So I'm making a special appeal to the residents of Manchester to strictly observe the protocols and be vigilant in it. We will continue to closely monitor the parishes of St. Anne, St. James, and Trelawney to determine if any additional measures are necessary. Madam Speaker, from the beginning of the pandemic, our management approach and measures have been measured, proportionate, evidence-based, and situationally appropriate. Given the recent upward trend in new cases, the government proposes to extend the current measures, which were to expire on January 31st, 2020, to the end of February. These measures apply island-wide except for the parish of Manchester, for which the enhanced measures are applicable. And we know what these measures are. I will just run through them very quickly. The important ones: the island-wide curfew time will remain at 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. nightly until 5 a.m. on March the 1st, 2021. The gathering limit will remain at 15 persons. The age limit for the stay-at-home measure will remain at 65. And again, I would emphasize that, especially in the early part of the pandemic, the stay-at-home orders were, I think, very critical in ensuring that our older population stayed at home and stayed safe. And I am encouraging our older population to still respect and observe the stay-at-home order. Indeed, I must say that they have been the most vigilant. Normal church or religious services operating in compliance with the established protocols may continue. Congregants are, however, reminded that gatherings in excess of 15 persons are not allowed outside of the place of worship. Now, I have passed some churches. I must be honest, not in Kingston, but in other parishes where I can see that it is an attempt to observe the rules. So they put a tent outside and they have their congregation that is overflowing by virtue of the square footage to person rule to be outside. But if you look under the tent very closely, you would see more than 15 persons there. So I appeal to the churches to follow the rules strictly. I know that most of them are strictly observing the mask wearing and the sanitizing. The social distancing might be a little bit of a challenge. But I, again, just use this platform. The churches have been our really strong and faithful partner in this. So we're asking them to ensure that the rules are vigilantly maintained. Now, the restrictions applicable to hospitals, nursing homes, and infirmaries, those will remain in place. The restrictions on small outdoor events, including, and I don't want this to be interpreted as I'm reading it, there is a restriction on all events. Isn't that the case, Minister Mackenzie? Right, so the restriction on outdoor events, including small outdoor concerts, parties, tailgate parties, round robin, religious celebrations, because remember now, conventions are not permitted, and festivals remain in place. We continue to monitor developments relating to the United Kingdom variant of the virus, and the restrictions applicable to travellers from the United Kingdom will remain in place until February 28, 2021. Excluding the United Kingdom, the current protocols under the controlled entry program for both residents and visitors will remain until April 15, 2021. Madam Speaker, this was done at the request of the tourism trade to provide some degree of certainty to travellers who want to make their vacation and travel plans. Madam Speaker, while we remain focused on managing the pandemic, we have to concurrently focus on restoring jobs, gradually returning our economy back to productive capacity. Madam Speaker, while most of the existing measures are proposed to remain unchanged, we are proposing to introduce the following changes effective February 1, 2020. You will recall, Madam Speaker, that I believe it would have been in early December, where we indicated that we were considering allowing churches to return to hosting small ceremonies for persons who have died. And I'm going to be very careful how I put this, Madam Speaker, because I don't want it to be interpreted as a free-for-all. What we are proposing is that the family of no more than 10 and the clergy or officiating ministers of no more than 5 can be in the church with the casket holding the religious rites of a funeral. So, Madam Speaker, we are not allowing mass open-ended funerals, regardless of how large the church is. It is the same rule that is applied at the graveside would be the same rule that is applied in the church. And we went through it in great detail, and we decided that we would do this because there were many cases of persons who spent their lives in the church. Many of them would have built their church. And in their final moments, well, their final moments would have passed, but when the last rites are to be administered, they cannot be brought back to the sanctuary. Of course, you know, we don't know. Well, I guess it is for the living that is hurting more than the dead that has departed. The family of the departed, many of them have reached out to me, and I have several letters on my desk. Many of them are heart-wrenching, of families asking for exemptions, and we could not give exemptions for funeral services. Persons have found creative ways, which is to have the coffin in the church and people pass through to pay their rights, but not having more than 15 persons at any one time. We don't recommend it. It would have to be under, you know, strict control. We have seen people do it. We have seen people put up tents in front of their homes, have the casket under the tent, and the people in the community pass by and pay their respect before the casket is taken to the burial site. So people have found all kind of creative ways. The important thing here is that there can be no gathering in the church for a funeral service of more than 15 persons. Maximum 5 from the clergy and 10 from the family. And that is the allowance that we have decided to make. I think it's reasonable, and I have great confidence that the churches that have properly implemented the protocols for their religious service will also implement the protocols for the funerals. But let me make it clear that we propose to allow this initially for 1 month, and we will closely monitor compliance, and then that will determine whether or not we extend. And obviously, if we find that it is not being implemented properly, or that there is a general spike, then obviously we would have to recall that measure. The existing burial rules will continue, even though, Madam Speaker, I must say that sometimes you have to wonder if there are, you know, 2 Jamaicas, because I am being sent videos of funerals, well, not funerals, burials at gravesites, where, let me not exaggerate, but from what I could see, hundreds of persons are there. The police have told me, because I have inquired of it, and they have told me that they have, as much as they could, shut down, dispersed burials, but it is a very difficult thing for them to police, given everything else that they have to do, and considering that in any one division, sometimes you may have, you know, 5, 6, even 10 funerals taking place, especially when you have in rural areas where people are being buried on family plots and the like. So it's very difficult for them. But we still emphasize the rule, and we ask our public to comply. 10 persons at the burial site for the family, and maximum 5 for the clergy and those persons who have to prepare the gravesite. Now, for public passenger buses, we propose to allow for a limited number of standing passengers based on the seating capacity of the bus. This one we took serious consideration of. I want to point out the Minister of Transport and Works was the first, was the first to applaud the measure, and he has good reason. The taximen and the bus drivers and bus operators, like all other sectors in the economy, they are crying out. And we get the calls and we pay close attention to what is being said. We hear the sporting fraternity, we hear the entertainment fraternity. But, Madam Speaker, as the economy moves back to full capacity, which is the intention of the government to, in a very well and carefully thought out and orchestrated way, move the economy back to full capacity, you can't do so without providing transport capacity as well. So we have looked at it carefully, and so for buses, we're approving 1 passenger standing for every 5 seats in the bus. So if you have the common 30-seater, then you could have 6 persons standing in the bus, and we estimate that that would be, good enough in terms of social distancing, considering that in the bus, persons sitting side by side are even much closer than the recommended social distance. Some persons will try to say, well, if I have 34, then I could put 7. No. And if you put a seat across the row, then you could have an additional. No. The fixed seats in the bus. And so this will be given to the Transport Authority and the police in terms of the new regulation. I know bus operators and taximen have been hurting because of the measures. We have not yet come to a point where we feel it is safe to return full seating by virtue of what is approved by taxi license. So we are still maintaining the order of 1 less than the licensed approved. So those are, Madam Speaker, 2 new measures which we have approved. But having done those 2 measures, again we have to say that as we relax the measures, I hate to use the word relax, but as we revise the measures, there is no relaxation in wearing your mask, in sanitizing, in using your discretion. You don't want nobody come rub up on you in the bus. And look, talking in the bus or in the taxi would be the easiest way to contract the virus. So for your self-interest, go in the bus or taxi, put on your mask, and don't talk to anyone other than one-stop driver. So, again, citizens have to exercise vigilance. Have to exercise vigilance. Now, Cabinet has also considered sporting events, and let me take some time to explain this. Prior to now, the policy was not to allow sporting events. We contemplated this over 2 days. We had our COVID meeting on Friday, and we met again on Monday, and the decision is that sporting events can be allowed under conditions. And the Minister of Local Government, the Minister of Sports, the Minister of Health will, in due course, explain in more detail what these conditions are. This, and just to be clear, this is not a wide-scale return of sports. We have to, first of all, go through a process where we look at each sporting event and what they require and the specific public health protocols that can be put in place to ensure that they are safe. Each sporting event will have to apply for approval to be held. So they have to go to the Ministry of Local Government, work with the Minister of Sports as their advocate and the Minister of Health to put together a package. Many of them already have solutions. We see solutions applying all over the world. for those who watch, you know, football league. I see one avid football fan from West Kingston here. Liverpool. Well, so we have seen various models and modalities where this can be done, and we believe we can do them in Jamaica. And you know, we have our athletes who have really suffered. You know, I mean, I can imagine how dejected they would feel. No World Cup, no Olympics. They have trained for so long. But we're going to find a way to get them back on the field, get them back on the track, and get sporting events going. It may be, Madam Speaker, that in the first instance, these sports would have to be spectatorless. Yes. Meaning that they could play on the field, it would be televised, broadcast, but no spectators would be in the area. And this would also apply for when they are training as well. Yes. So it's the bubble concept that would apply. And there are some specific sporting events which the Minister of Sport at some later date will give more details on as to how these will be approved and be permitted to be done. Now, regarding the entertainment sector, on Sunday I read, I got a text message, and I think many of us would have seen a very compelling argument about the entertainment sector, and various representatives of the sector have been in direct contact with me. Minister Grange, who is not just a minister but who is an entertainment practitioner herself, and others within the cabinet and the government have been diligently batting for the sector. The government has been very sympathetic. And indeed, Madam Speaker, you will recall that earlier in the pandemic, when we thought we were coming out of the rut of the pandemic, we allowed certain events with certain protocols in place, but then we began to see some spikes that we could trace back to events. And so we had to pull back. I don't want the entertainment sector to feel that there is no sympathy for them or that we are blaming them. That is not the case. The nature of their industry is such that we just have to be very careful with it. I personally believe that there are some measures that can be put in place. The question is whether or not those measures would make the business economically viable. And so greater thought needs to be put into that. There are persons who say, well, just only approve open-air events. Just keep them within the time of the curfew. Everyone who goes in, they have to take a rapid test. Or, you know, they have all kinds of modalities and strategies that are being proposed. What I have directed to be done is that the Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports, the Minister of Local Government and the Minister of Health, they will be meeting next week, and I'm not certain you're going to be meeting with the industry just yet, but they're going to meet, review the proposals that have been given, because several proposals have been sent into the government about how the industry can return to some kind of functionality. So we're going to review those, and at the end of that review, we will come back to Parliament and report as to what might be possible. So, Madam Speaker, thank you for your attention. Thank you, colleagues, for listening.